Hi, this is the second and last part of this series on AI. Today, we'll discuss the impact of AI on existing companies and the new business models it has generated. In the second part, we'll give some advice to the CIO of Bank Sabadell on the further implementation of AI-enabled technology. Let's get going. Here we have identified some of the most affected industries by artificial intelligence. As we now know from part 1, AI has enabled unprecedented business opportunities that will transform and reshape industries such as healthcare, financial services, consumer retail, and marketing, to only cite those most impacted. Now let's look at some of the opportunities and threats these industries are facing. Our goal here is to highlight the unprecedented amount of opportunities associated to AI for pre-existing companies. These opportunities range from radical business transformation all the way to automation for greater productivity. Nevertheless, as we all know, great transformations are rarely harmless. As AI becomes more commonly used, firms must ensure they take into account the risks on the individual and global scale. We have compiled the key threats which we believe should be highlighted. Once again, we find ethical concerns associated with our lack of knowledge and experience with AI on the top of the list, especially in healthcare, where the smallest error could have tragic consequences. We can also underline job displacement and the skill gap which AI will cause, as well as the reinforcement of corporate gigantism. As these titles show, AI is now everywhere. Its innovative nature is disrupting business models as we know them and even creating new ones. As the traditional business models become obsolete, new data-driven models appear. Let's have a look at some of them. First, the platform model. Some familiar examples are Airbnb, Facebook, or Netflix, which use AI to capitalize on the network effect and achieve greater success rates. What is a platform business model, you ask? Well, the idea is to connect users and producers, which may have an interchanging role, and use their data points in order to optimize and improve the model. AI has made such platforms more successful and efficient by improving interactions between users and producers, providing meaningful insights and greater predicting capabilities. Moving on to the big data business model. The essence of big data business models revolves around using data to generate insights, monetize said data, and transform your business model accordingly. A key example would be Under Armour or Nike, which went from being activewear manufacturers to selling a connected fitness through sports application, training recommendations, and being able to better predict future consumer trends, all thanks to applying AI to their big data capabilities. Next, the decentralized autonomous business model describes when an AI software becomes a business administrator that learns from and competes with other AI managers in a decentralized network. Powered by data flowing from thousands of users, decentralized AIs can become a source of huge economic value for its owners. We've just seen that some of the greatest impacts of AI are on the value proposition of firms, as well as their customer relationship and their cost structures. Now that we have had a more general look at the overall impact AI has on existing companies and their business models, we are going to take a more in-depth look into the financial services, more particularly into the Bank of Sabadell. First, we should take a quick tour of recent banking events. Here's a simplified timeline. For the last 60 years, not much has changed in the banking environment. Traditional banks dominated their territories geographically through a number of physical agencies vital to make deposits. Big cities were an area of intense rivalry, but aside from that, competition was limited. We are witnessing a watershed moment today. Using Porter's 5 forces model, we could say the threats of new entrants is now higher than ever. Since the Great Recession of 2008, trust in some major banks has crumbled. Around the same time, technology has permitted the rise of a new competitor, cashless online banks called neobanks, that are now challenging the established institutions. There is a true debate around which kind of bank will come out on top, and AI will be instrumental to win this fight. Let's take a quick tour of the main differences. See, traditional banks have many advantages. A large consumer base, hence a very strong brand image, especially in rural areas, where these banks used to be the only alternative. Finally, over decades, traditional banks have built a network of thousands of physical locations. As for the neobanks, they also have their problems. Without all the needed legal requirements, their offering can be limited in some countries. To reduce costs, they also provide little to no customer service and have no physical outlet to deposit cash or meet an advisor, which bids customers to keep a traditional banking account, for now. The matter isn't so clear-cut though. Neobanks use legal tricks to reduce paperwork to a minimum and leverage their low cost to provide attractive pricing strategies. They also have a clean slate, no previous scandal and less government ties. There is a stark contrast with the slow processing time and clumsy interfaces of traditional banks, whose physical locations' maintenance costs force them to keep higher prices and have less flexibility. Here's some quick examples. This card by German neobank N26 comes absolutely free in less than a week for the creation of an account, which can only be done through a mobile app. Talking about mobile apps, here is the online trading app Robinhood, compared to the interface of the traditional bank Schwab. This stark difference bids are problematic. How can traditional banks use AI to compete in this new environment? First things first, before we even think about describing the environment, Bank Sabadell should keep these strategic goals in mind through the utilization of AI. The scale of data, a tailored experience, optimization and matching, high retention benefits, and the value of improved performance. Thus, moving away from archaic strategies, which added bureaucracy and inefficiencies. The first step to surviving neobanks involves radically changing the business model. We recommend implementing a decentralized, autonomous business model, putting AI agents at the core of all the decisions. This business model will allow for continuous improvement, unprecedented accuracy, and greater success rates, minimizing the risk of errors. Moreover, it should help solve the three issues Bank Sabadell is facing today, which are the need to improve customer experience, preventing fraud, determining and awarding credits and loans, while minimizing risks of defaults. The Decentralized Autonomous Model, or DAO, has a wide array of advantages, such as integrated big data capacities and exceptional cost-lowering tools. So let's have a look at how the core challenges faced by the bank can be solved through the use of AI and the newly incorporated DAO model. Let's start by having a look at how AI can minimize fraud at Bank Sabadell. Research has shown that fraud detection is one of the top priorities for banks. AI can help banks save money by spotting money laundering or Ponzi schemes. A clear success story of AI's efficiency was made public in 2019, when an AI investigator helped in the detection of an $18 million cryptocurrency Ponzi scheme. We strongly suggest developing a similar infrastructure at Sabadell. This specific use of AI would be through supervised and unsupervised machine learning, dedicated to calculate an overall risk score using a single model to simplify the detection. By offering more secure transactions, the bank would be at the same time improving its reputation, awarding them a competitive advantage over competitors. More specifically, we recommend implementing AI fraud detection technologies through vertical integration of a vendor such as Teradata, specialized in the selling of fraud detection solutions. Being based on machine learning means the more data, the better. Traditional banks, like Sabadell, have a large customer base and should be able to develop more efficient tools than neobanks. Moving on to the management of loans. According to Emerald's research, around 15% of venture funding raised for AI vendors in the banking industry is for lending solutions. AI has two main impacts on the lending business. First, it can act as a risk assessor to analyze the potential of default. AI will effectively combine the digital footprint of a person with more traditional measures such as the FICO score and income, which increases the assessment accuracy of the creditworthiness of a person. For this purpose, we suggest Sabadell to collaborate with the startup Lendo, which is currently a partner of the FICO Credit Agency. Secondly, we suggest streamlining the whole loan process to minimize the costs by cutting all the paperwork. Automation through AI can enable greater efficiency and productivity, as well as reduce human bias. This brings us to the last challenge currently faced by banks: improving customer experience. We believe that Sabadell should work on a more developed AI chatbot for client queries and on more aesthetic websites promoting their ease of use. Answering basic queries or complaints via email or phone does not align with today's flexible customer service expectations. By introducing an artificial agent as a chatbot with more targeted data about the customer services agent can focus on more complex issues, while clients with simple queries can be helped immediately by the chatbot. Finally, here are some further applications that should be considered by Sabadell's CIO. A recommender system for investment recommendations to users. Customized service to personalize the customer's interface depending on their investor profile. A better design overall, and more AI-enabled online options. Now, let's go back to our question. Can traditional banks use AI to compete in a new environment? Well, we are convinced that Sabadell should absolutely reinforce their AI capacities, as soon enough, the technologies we just explained will not form a competitive advantage anymore, but a basic requirement in the banking industry. AI is not only the future of banking, it is the new norm. Thank you for your attention.